Welcome back, focused learners. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here for another explainer. Today, we're diving into a topic that's going to hit pretty close to home if you've ever felt like you're working twice as hard as everyone else just to get, half as far. We're unpacking the hidden strengths behind what society so often just brushes off as clumsiness or being inefficient. We're going to figure out exactly why that exhaustion you feel is so real, and more importantly, why your unique way of processing the world is actually a massive, massive advantage. Let's kick things off with this one thought from the source material. Clumsiness is proof of living deeply. I just love that. It immediately flips the script, doesn't it? We spend so much time beating ourselves up for not being fast or sleek or perfectly polished when we're, say, coding a new program, writing an essay, or crunching complex data. But what if all that friction you feel every single day isn't a sign of failure? What if it's actually proof of your profound engagement with the world around you?
The 16-hour productivity trap. To really understand that depth, we have to look straight at the exhaustion.
Seriously, think about it. Have you ever just stared at a screen for 16 straight hours, maybe rewriting one single paragraph over and over, only to finally crash into bed feeling like absolutely nothing got done? You aren't lacking motivation. You certainly aren't lazy, and yet you watch other people just breeze past you in half the time while you quietly burn out. It's a really painful, isolating reality for so many incredibly hardworking people, and it is so vital to recognize that the exhaustion you feel in those moments is completely, 100% valid.
See? The gap between the person who finishes in 8 hours and the person who takes 16, it's not intelligence. It's workflow design. Pushing a square boulder up a steep hill takes incredible stamina, and let's be real, that endurance is a serious talent. But stepping back to carve that boulder into a wheel, that's what actually cuts out the friction. When we just rely on our raw stamina without ever hitting pause to ask, okay, what can I cut out here? What sequence actually makes sense? Well, all that incredible endurance is just a one-way ticket to severe fatigue.
Now, you might be wondering, okay, well, why don't I just adopt someone else's super efficient workflow? The source sheds some brilliant light on this. Sticking stubbornly to your own methods, even if they're a bit clunky, isn't about you being arrogant. That stubbornness, it's literally self-defense. You have spent years building your own internal processes through intense trial and error. So when someone swoops in and says, hey, just do it my way, your brain immediately pushes back because your method is your survival mechanism. You don't need to tear down your whole wall. You just need to borrow one tiny puzzle piece of a new method, treat it as a little experiment, and gently bypass that defensive wall.
Environment over willpower. This friction totally explains why we lose focus in the first place.
When you're constantly exhausted, finding focus feels literally impossible. Our first instinct is always to blame ourselves, right? Like, oh, I just lack discipline. But the real battle isn't happening in your character at all. It's happening right there in your physical surroundings. If you're a highly sensitive person, your brain is doing some serious heavy lifting that you aren't even aware of. Just being in an open-plan office or a room with other people is actively draining your resources. You're unconsciously processing movement in your peripheral vision, tiny subtle shifts in people's voice tones, and just the sheer physical presence of another human being. Your brain is always trying to read the room. So even if literally no one is talking to you, just them being there is a massive, exhausting stimulus.
And that brings us to a crucial realization. Willpower is a battery. It's a highly finite mental resource. It is absolutely not a measure of your moral character or how dedicated you are to your work. Think about it. If your brain is constantly burning energy just trying to filter out the background noise of everybody else, your willpower battery is going to be flat dead by noon. You can't just tell yourself to try harder to focus when the physical battery is empty. It just doesn't work that way.
Knowing this, the fix isn't trying to magically summon more willpower. It's about aggressively protecting the battery you actually have. You've got to rely on environmental fixes. Put yourself in a protective bubble. Ruthlessly clear your desk of everything, turn off every single digital notification, and try to work completely out of sight of other people. By removing the stimuli, you immediately stop that unconscious drain on your brain. Letting your environment do the heavy lifting instead of relying on sheer mental force, that's not a weakness. That is a highly strategic move.
The exhaustion of conversation. If just being around people drains your battery, what happens when you actually have to talk to them? Enter the intense exhaustion of conversation. For a lot of introverted or highly sensitive folks, navigating those social dynamics, the back-to-back Zoom meetings, the sudden brainstorming sessions, that is easily the most draining part of the whole day. And here's something that completely flips a common societal judgment on its head. Poor eye contact is a shield, not a sign of disrespect. If you struggle to maintain eye contact, people automatically assume you're being cold or you're just checked out. But the reality? Looking directly into someone's eyes hits you with an overwhelming flood of emotional data. So looking away isn't you being disrespectful. It's a necessary shield. It is exactly how you protect yourself from emotional information overload so you can actually tune in and focus on what the person is saying.
The friction you're feeling here, it comes from a massive environmental mismatch. Modern workplaces are custom built to reward extroverted talkers. It's all about loud megaphones, quick witty banter, being constantly visible, and processing things right on the fly. But your reality? You are geared for the quiet, solitary reflection of a pen hitting paper. You probably prefer writing your thoughts down over talking them out and thinking deeply before you ever speak. So when you feel completely tapped out, it's not a personal flaw. You're just experiencing the friction of running your unique operating system in an environment that was designed for a completely different one. The solitude paradox. Because of all this friction, we end up in a really confusing emotional state.
You might find yourself desperately wanting to just retreat into your own little bubble while simultaneously feeling this deep, aching loneliness once you're actually on your island. It's like, how can you want to hide away from absolutely everyone, but still feel sad that nobody is around? Well, we can untangle this whole paradox just by separating the two ideas. Loneliness is your internal craving for connection. It's that fundamental human need we all have to be recognized and understood. Isolation, on the other hand, is a physical need to escape the exhausting storm of stimuli. They aren't actually at odds with each other. You're simply craving the emotional safety of a connection while physically fleeing the absolute fatigue of the crowd.
So how do you satisfy both of those needs at once? The source material gives us a brilliant solution: thin and long connections. Think of it kind of like tossing a paper airplane across a giant gap. You do not need dense, exhausting, face-to-face interactions to feel connected. Simply reading someone else's words, writing out your own thoughts for others to eventually read, or just having distant but meaningful little touch points, that can completely satisfy your human need to feel seen without draining your battery in the process. It's all about finding those low-energy ways to feel genuinely connected.
Clumsiness as a strength. Let's pull all these threads together.
When we funnel all these perceived flaws together, the slow processing, the desperate need for isolation, the supposed clumsiness, they absolutely do not combine into a failure. They actually distill down into a massive hidden advantage. When you finally stop looking at these traits as broken things that need fixing, you start to see the incredible value they generate over time. Just remember this: spinning your wheels means you are at least moving. When you're stuck in that awful 16-hour loop, it feels like you're just burning rubber and going nowhere. But you know what? Yes, your direction might be slightly off right now, and yeah, there's a whole lot of friction, but the effort itself is absolute proof of incredible momentum. People who do nothing don't experience wheel spin. Your struggle is undeniable evidence of your profound drive. Just look at the outcomes. The fast, highly efficient people are usually sprinting right across the surface. They're building a very wide but very shallow foundation. But you, by really wrestling with the material, you are digging deep. This whole slow and clumsy approach actually forces you to unearth unique perspectives and little gems that the sprinters just run right past. You are developing deep insights that literally cannot be acquired without that solitary struggle. So I want to leave you with this final, powerful thought. Your clumsiness isn't a flaw to fix. It's the very foundation of your unique depth. Your exhaustion, your need to retreat, the way you do things, these aren't flaws. The way you operate naturally yields a density of thought and a richness of perspective that simply cannot be rushed. So the next time you feel like you're falling behind everyone else, I really want you to ask yourself, are you really behind, or are you just digging a whole lot deeper than everyone else? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.